All right, fellow TFFL owners, welcome back to another TFFL webcast. It's Wednesday, October 22nd. We're looking ahead to Week 8 TFFL action. I'm Stick. With me, as usual, Hank and Berto. And Bill Thornburg back for a return engagement. This webcast brought to you by Pinnacle Acoustics,
where we'll make stuff not sound like it does. Make it sound better. That kind of stuff.
We'll work on the tagline.
Yeah.
No Chief this week. He's down in, is it Disney World or Disneyland?
Disney World, Florida.
He's in Florida, all right. And well-deserved vacation. He may need a vacation from that vacation. But I don't think we're going to have him next week either. I think this is a good long trip down to Disney World. No Ralph this week. We were going to have him on as our I interviewee. We'll hopefully get him back next week. But again, Bill is going to fill in for the both of them. And despite these adjustments to our game plan, I think we've got a good show ahead of us here. Real quick, I just wanted to take stock of what we're doing here, guys. Phil and I had dinner with Greg Shively this past weekend. And you'll recall that on the last webcast, we picked on Shively a little bit for his alleged lack of interaction with the TFFL. Phil?
I think Shive, as you well know, is one who uses his words wisely and to continue the banter and make sure that there's seriousness and understanding, yet at least adding quirkiness to the conversation. So it's a give and take. It's a healthy family. There's no strife. It's just two guys who
the funny thing is
living together in a fantasy world.
I think Hank said last week there was a 0% chance Shively would have watched the webcast or watched it long enough to get to our discussion about him.
But he obviously did.
What did he say at dinner? Yeah, he called us out at dinner. He's watching.
Well, he also emailed the group, and I would have thought that maybe he could keep that between the two of us. But hey, we were in an open relationship, so it's not a troublesome part.
I took it as a good. If we're reaching Shively, if we're getting that kind of viewership, that's a good sign.
If we reach Shively, who's next? I mean, the whole world's out there.
Well, and I was going to point out that I think Chief has already indicated that he now has some regret about not taking Sammy Watkins because of what we've talked about here. I think Michael Giovenco said we've gotten in his head a little bit. I'm paraphrasing. With our discussion about the two-quarterback strategy.
Well, Michael Giovenco also will, if he's watching this, will also recall that I had a chance to trade 2 of my second-round picks to move up to one of his spots, which would have been Sammy Watkins, and I turned it down. And I went back to him. I don't know if you guys recall. I actually walked him up to the stage. I said, "What if I give you this? What if I give you this?" As he's going to take Sammy Watkins, but never came to fruition. So
I think we're going to end up.
Kudos to Michael.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about Sammy Watkins, I think, over the course of the year. Okay, let's jump in with TFFL trivia time.
All right.
All right, get your pens and paper handy. Through 7 weeks now, the K-Wheels are averaging 77.1 points per game. Which franchise holds the TFFL record for the most average points per game throughout a whole season? The TFFL archives track this. We track the annual scoring champ. The team we're talking about is the only team ever to go over 80 points per game for an entire season.
Wow.
Okay, write down your answer. We'll get the correct answer later in the show. So we're going to dive in here. Again, without Chief, we'll all be filling in a little bit. Later in the show, I want to let people know what's coming. We're going to be doing a outlook of TFFL trades that might happen down the stretch. We're going to look ahead to some top prospects in the 2015 TFFL draft who might be looking ahead at this point. But first, let me play Chief here with best and worst lineup moves of the week. And I struggled with this. There really weren't any egregious lineup mistakes. I don't think anybody really won a game with a lineup move. So for no good reason, I'm going to pick on Ralph with our worst lineup move of the week. And I'm going to pick on Marcus Wheaton, and here I go again with Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins scores 19 points this week. Marcus Wheaton is basically, he should be cut at this point. The Giant Killers, or the Amsterdam Packers, have started him twice all season long, getting 2 total points from him. They should have taken Sammy Watkins. So it's the worst roster move of the week, highlighted by the failures of Wheaton and Justin Hunter thus far this season for the Impact. The best move, again, not so much a lineup move this week, but more of an acquisition that I want to celebrate a little bit. I want to laud Tony Romo and Jack's Giant Killers. Romo's 21 points this last week. They were the difference in the Giant Killers win. He's got a 4-week stretch now of 15-point games or greater, coinciding with the Giant Killers' 4-game winning streak. Romo scores fantasy points. He gets yards. He gets touchdowns. Berto, I forget, what was your quarterback situation when you went out and felt the need to get Romo?
Well, I had, who did I have at the time? I had Rivers. I had Freeman, right? I made that trade with you to pick him up.
Yeah, I guess that was
I probably had a couple others. And it looked like the end of the road for Rivers. Now, certainly he's had a resurgence, but I felt like I needed to go in a new direction. I thought it was the end of the line for Rivers, to be honest with you. And I like the Dallas offense, so that's why I made that deal with Ralph, which was the number 1 for Romo and Decker. And with that number 1, he picked up Miles Austin, which was the 8th overall, maybe?
Yep.
Something like that? 7th?
Nice trade. Nice trade. Gets you the best move of the week, even though it happened more than a year ago. All right. Let me hand it off to Hank with our weekly look at the playoffs and a look ahead to the number 1 draft pick next year.
All right. We're going to really start to break things down. We all talked about Week 7 being the time of year that we're starting to figure out who's what and who's got a chance to do it. And there are a few teams still with that shot of whether to go for it or not. But let's break it down with the picture. So we've got in the North, we got the K-Wheels and the Killers that are both looking strong and obviously 2 of the better teams in the league. And and then we're going to have a battle. And like we said earlier, the Fats are 1-6, and they're 2 games out of the playoffs in that division. Lizards lost this week. Aliens lost this week. There is in that one. South's a little more clear cut. You get the Beavers and Hams on top of their division. The Mongols looking pretty good. But then we get to the other side. These guys got to have some hope still. The Devils, the AMPAC, and the Senators all sitting at 3 and 4. Take a couple of games in a row, you're right back in it. However, at the bottom, the Fats, the Sponge, the Aliens, I'm throwing you in there. Even though you're only a game out, at this point, it's time to really think about it. And if you're going to make the playoffs, maybe you're a trade partner. I mean, and whether it's for next year or if it's for right now to try and get back in it. So look forward to talking about the trades, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah, as I pointed out, there are 10 teams who are within 1 game of a playoff spot right now.
Yeah.
I would honestly like at some point to see a live trade during the webcast. You can get that going.
I think Berto and I can make that happen.
We'll work on that. It may take a few weeks, but we'll get it done.
All right. That's a goal. We'll see if we can accomplish that this year.
Okay, let's go around the tube. I've got several topics teed up for us here. I wanted to start with an interesting one. We've talked about this many times, I think, over the 20 years we've been doing this. How important is it, how valuable is it to have a quarterback-wide receiver tandem? Is that something you want to pursue, something you want to avoid? Looking across the league right now, we see the Lizards. They're the best example of this with Andrew Luck, with T.Y. Hilton. We got the Giant Killers, Tony Romo, Terrence Williams. The Devils, Drew Brees, Marcus Colston. And even the Senators, I'll throw them in there. Tom Brady and Shane Vereen catching passes out of the backfield. Bill, let me start with you on this one, because you gave up Jordy Nelson in the offseason. You had a great tandem with Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson. Obviously, you have receivers in Demaryius Thomas and Alshon Jeffrey that you were happy to keep over Nelson. But was being part of that tandem at all part of the consideration in giving up Nelson?
Well, it's a great point. The minute you started talking about this, I started thinking about that relationship when Aaron was throwing to Jordy all the time. I think it came down to a unique situation. I believe in the tandem. I believe when you've got hot guys, you don't separate them, and when you can, put up 35 points on average in a week with a hot wide receiver and a quarterback who's throwing 303 TDs, you do that. But in that situation last year, we knew. Our decision was that we thought the talent in next year's draft was important enough to keep acquiring first-round picks. And we also had a 4 running back situation, a young 4 running back situation. We want to keep 4 running backs. So in that situation, Jordy was the oldest one. He had some injury issues, so obviously we couldn't have predicted he was going to be averaging 15 a game. We thought that they added some talent. So I think it's a situational thing. I don't think you can make a blanket statement either way that one is better than the other. Remember, each player scores his own points. It doesn't matter if they're together. It's nice when they get them together, but each player still scores his own points.
Thornburg, you're obviously missing the point that we are here to make blanket statements that may or may not make any sense at all. All right?
That's right.
So I'll stick out.
Stay away with them like the plague.
Yeah, but having that Luck to Hilton combo is 12-point at least swing on one play, and if they get 2, good luck. It's a nice thing to have when you got some talented people like that. Hey, Thorny, you want to talk about trading me Demaryius Thomas? Can we make that happen?
Please don't.
I'd love to.
You don't have enough talent on your team to trade for Demaryius Thomas.
Oh, really? Really? We can't talk about DeMarco Murray and Jamal Charles, and you wouldn't talk about
those
Demaryius
guys
Thomas?
are going to be broke down and on the hospital bed in 2 years.
Ooh. Okay.
So Stick, just to chime in on this one, it's so much fun, right?
Oh,
so going back in the time machine and seeing Rivers throw TD passes to Vincent Jackson against Ralph on a Monday night was just a wonderful thing. But at the end of the day, it's more about Bill's right? So if I had somebody else on some other team, he's going to score touchdowns. But to see that 12 or 15 points go up on the board is just a great feeling, right? So you're down by a couple points, and Romo throws one to Williams, or back in the day, Rivers throws one to Vincent Jackson. It was just a fantastic feeling to get those points in a big bunch. But as long as you got talent on good offenses, that makes sense.
The tandem that I had for many years was Carson Palmer to Chad Johnson, and I think the lesson I learned there is ideally you want the receiver to be more like your number 3 guy than your number 1 guy, because if your quarterback and your top receiver both have a bad game, you're going to lose, and you don't. If that happens in the playoffs, as it did to me, forget about it. So maybe if it's your number 3 receiver and not quite as big an impact, I think that's the way I would want to go. And Terrence
Wes Welker on my team is I'm hoping Wes Welker becomes a guy I can plug in as my number 3 guy. Peyton.
Yeah, John Brown. I really need John Brown to be my.
I'm hoping Cody Latimer becomes the next Demaryius Thomas. That will happen. On the flip side, Stick, just to touch on that, it's always fun too having the guy that the other guy's star quarterback is throwing to. So
that's awesome. Yes.
Manning throwing touchdowns to Decker. I can live with that.
That was nice for you last year. Yeah.
Maybe we'll see that again with the Beavers and the K-Wheels in the finals this year.
Never know.
Okay, let's move on to our next Around the Tube topic. We have our rules chairman here with us, so let's talk about some potential rules proposals, maybe eventually rules changes. Let's talk specifically about scoring changes for running backs. And Bill, I know there's a couple specific things you want to bring up. Points per reception, maybe a half a point per reception, I think is what you're looking at. I'm curious if we're talking about running backs only, or if that would apply to receivers as well.
No, I think that would apply just to running backs. The other that I shared, well, actually I shared, sorry to steal your thunder, but I shared a couple others with you. The thought possibly was combining running back, receiving and rushing yards together, so it would be total yards from a running back. It might, in some instances, add a point. Can't add more than a point because, if somebody is gets over that, then they can't get over another yard. The other one would be, the half point, because I think a half point only for running back receiving. Again, we're only adding like maybe at the most. I mean, if a running back gets 10 receptions, that's amazing, and that would be 5 points. So, I don't. We're not trying to dramatically change the league. We just want to throw up some options that people might agree to, especially considering that the running back situation right now. I mean, you're tough if you get a primary running back by committee who's getting points. I mean, there's only maybe 10 backs totally who get all of the carries and touches.
Guys, what do you think about it?
Well,
I'll chime in and just say I've always been against PPR in this league and what the TFFL is, and it's always been about running backs and touchdowns, and we don't give a point every 10 yards like most ESPN leagues do, or a lot of fantasy leagues do. It's about touchdowns, and it's about scoring points that way. And we're seeing there's a lot of games in the 80s right now. It doesn't feel, at least to me, and maybe I'm at a unique advantage right now, but it doesn't seem like scoring is so minimal that we need to inject this kind of stuff right now. But I'll always listen to ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the PPR concept for the TFL. I have to admit, first joining this league, I was like, wow, these are, because I played in another league and even another league I'm in, yardage and half points and decimal points, and I don't like to see that stuff. A nice clean round number is nice.
You would have slept better had you had a half-point PPR before Arian Foster got that touchdown the other night.
Yeah. Possibly. Possibly.
Half points avoid cut ties in half.
Yeah, I don't like it. I just don't like it. But that's just me. I think it's to Phil's point. This is a unique scoring system that we have. I think we've all honed in our strategies. Little tweaks around the edges are fine. I'm someone who, and maybe Stick would agree with this after watching that game Monday night. The Pittsburgh D had some sacks. They had some other things going on. Maybe I could come around on the defensive piece a little bit. But I am against PPR, I have to say, or any sort of fractions or half points or any of that stuff.
Well, and we also had some positive response from the different defensive touchdown or defensive scoring points, which I'm going to actually already locked in. Probably one of the proposals is going to be a defensive touchdown, adding points for sacks and turnovers. So we'll work on the language of that, but that looks at least the one that is most palatable to people.
Yeah, maybe sacks is a bridge too far, but
turnovers.
Turnovers is a different story, right?
Yeah.
So.
And your max only going to get 4 or 5. So.
Hey! Speaking of defensive touchdowns and the Steelers' defense the other night.
That was fun, wasn't it?
How does the ref? Never mind. Okay, let's talk about
24 points in 2 minutes and 56 seconds.
Two tight ends is another proposal I know you wanted to bring up, Bill. I read this as the ability to start 2 tight ends regardless of position.
Yeah, and That was more of something I added on just as somebody that another league had told me about that they tried two tight ends. He's also in a 2 QB league, but we would never do that. But two tight ends, you're still keeping the rosters the same. Somebody could literally start 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and 3 wide receivers. It would take some working out. We'd have to think through it, but because it might radically change how people draft. But tight ends are just as volatile as running backs these days. I mean, one of the things I never try to do is chasing tight ends, going after the next guy who just caught 2 touchdowns, or the next guy. I mean, where's Larry Donald right now? I mean, seriously.
I vote no.
We had this on the ball. We had this on the ballot a few years ago, right?
Well, I had it sort of artfully crafted something where people could add, have 2 running backs, and they could start 4 wide receivers instead of a tight end. That was the thing. So
this is, and I remember arguing against this, and I thought it was Ralph that brought this up simply because he had Gates and another good tight end at the time. So it was more a vote to block Ralph than anything else at that time. but I'd think about it.
Well, if we don't move forward, then we die on the vine. I'm not trying to change everything. I'm just trying to propose some options.
Bill, I would have no issue with that. I think that's a mice nuts move that's not going to affect scoring that much. You see it in the NFL. Some teams are using multiple tight ends as a way to customize their offense a little bit. I don't think it would affect things too much if people want to start 2 tight ends over a 3rd running back. Sure. Okay. Next topic, we haven't strayed too much on the webcast into big picture NFL issues, things not directly related to the TFFL. So I'll try to make sure I bring this back to the TFFL. But let's talk about Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson for the first time on our webcast. Ray Rice looks like he may come back, or at least be available to be signed and come back some point fairly soon. So my first question is, do you think an NFL team would have, I don't know if the guts or the balls is even the right way to say it, but would be willing to sign Ray Rice this year or Adrian Peterson next year? And my second question, bringing it back to the TFFL, for most of us, our fan base, it's our wives. Would you dare upset your fan base by signing one of these guys, Ray Rice especially?
Well, I'll chime in on this one first. So Deb always gave me grief when the Eagles signed Michael Vick.
That was tough.
Still talks about this. So yeah, that was one that she still brings up. I honestly think Ray Rice is toxic, and that no one will touch him. The other thing too is, if you compare, and the reason why I brought Michael Vick up, I think that's the closest kind of comparison you can maybe come up with of somebody who went so far down to be brought back up. The difference with Ray Rice is what, 28, 29? So by the time he comes back, he's going to be a 30-year-old running back.
He's not going to age too.
I just don't see that there's going to be. I just don't think that there's going to be a big. I don't think there'll be enough of a draw for a team to take a chance on him. How about that? And I think for Vic, the risk.
Rice is 27.
Was worth the reward. For Ray Rice, I don't think it will be, and I think that will be another strike against him from getting another chance. Strictly football related.
Well, I'll chime in and say that I think Adrian Peterson will get another chance, just purely on the chance that he could continue to be Adrian Peterson. I don't know if it'll be in Minnesota. I hope it is. It's tough. I mean, the NFL has got so many image issues. Of players and art that costs real corporate dollars. and for this league, and image is so important. I think they got to be very careful, but I think I kind of agree that Ray Rice is probably he's probably not going to get a chance, but I think Adrian definitely will. But it's an issue.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. I was definitely just talking about Ray Rice. Adrian Peterson may be a little bit different. Because he still had, I think, a lot more left in the tank than Ray Rice, let's say, and is just a better player. So if the right, apology tour can happen, and he gets things together, and the full story comes out, and all of that, then maybe he's got a shot. But I don't think Ray Rice does.
I think they both get a shot as soon as they're available. As soon as their waiver, they're cleared, the NFL clears them, they start.
Wow.
And you have no qualms about that, Thormer. That's totally cool.
That's not. I don't have an opinion on that. You asked me if they're going to start. It's not my issue. If they're going to have a contribution, they're going to play. They'll play as soon as they're cleared.
Ray Rice is, well, we'll see real quick with Ray Rice. I think that may happen very soon, and I'm curious to see that. I think somebody will sign Adrian Peterson. His circumstances, dare I say, I think are a little bit different.
I think they're both under contract to the original team, so it doesn't matter. As soon as they're cleared, they'll play.
Okay, let's move on to Eye on the TFFL. Again, Ralph was not able to make it this week. Hopefully, we'll have him on next week. But we're still going to turn it over to Berto. We've got a very special segment this week. Lots to talk about here as we head into Week 8 action. Some teams looking ahead to 2015, perhaps, if not already, maybe within a week or two, and many teams now needing to shore up for a strong playoff run. Berto, what kind of trades do you see happening?
All right, so I'm looking into my Magic 8 Ball here. So trades that will happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a half dozen or so trades, and then I'm going to turn it over to the panel to get some feedback. So let's start here. So trades that will happen. So Week 9, the running back hungry Beavers finally come to the realization that they need some running back help. The Beavers send 3 number 1s in 2015, plus a number 3 in 2016, to the sponge for LaShawn McCoy.
Oh.
This will solidify a sagging Beaver running back tour.
Sagging.
Trade number 2. And this trade will occur in Week 9 as well. After getting pounded in Week 8 by the Mongols, the Packers will fall out of the race, and they'll finally part ways with Antonio Gates and send him within the division to the tight end needy K-Wheels for a number 2 in 2015. For the Wheels, it will give them a little bench depth and be able to have a tight end that they can plug into to a running back spot after losing Spiller. So it's finally a sad parting for Gates leaving the Amsterdam Packers. The third trade that will happen, that's going nowhere fast, and at 1-7 in Week 9, fresh off a loss to the Sponge, start to unload. Realizing that Emmanuel Sanders' value is as high as it will ever be, they ship him off to the Hams for number 2 in 2015. The head cheese figures he needs some protection with the injured and suddenly inconsistent Keenan Allen and Calvin Johnson. Incidentally, this is the Killers number 2 that the Hams trade away after a deal that we made last year. Still leaving gas in the tank for Michael, which we'll come back to. Okay.
Well,
Going back to the Hams. Hold on, let me finish. So Michael said he's going for broke this year. So he hooks up with one of his favorite trading partners, the Packers, and snags Frank Gore for his number 2, and a number 2 in 2016. So Michael continues to push all his chips in to win this year, as he said he's going to do. The fifth trade. Now we come to the killers. With the potential fading of Brandon Oliver as a number one back with the return of Brown and Matthews, we're forced to go to the well, but unfortunately we have a lack of picks in 2014, which will force the Killers to move a number 2 in 2016 and make a big push for back-to-back titles. They trade the number 2 to the Sens for Steven Jackson. The sixth trade, Aliens. After taking a fall out of the playoffs in Week 10 to a surging Lizards team behind Andrew Luck, moved to the familiar position of building for the future. They trade a suddenly successful Bryce Brown, who is having a nice couple weeks after Fred Jackson and Spiller go down.
This is week.
Again, back to the K-Wheels, for a number 2 in 2016. And lastly, our last trade, and this one is a surprising one. Hams, again, pushing all of their chips in to win this year, somehow get Nick to return an email and actually pull off a trade with the Dirt Devils. So, in a moment of clarity or weakness or whatever you want to call it, Nick sends 28-year-old Matt Forte to the Hams for the number 1 in 2015 and the number 1 in 2016.
Oh,
okay.
Great job for that.
I'm not sure which is more impressive, that Nick return an email or that trade would actually be accomplished.
So, with that, I will turn it over to the panel. So, Bill, why don't you start us off?
Well, obviously, I'll address the one that was the number one for me, which kind of got me aghast that I would trade all three. But hey, there's no doubt LaShawn McCoy would be a spectacular addition to the Beavers. But to think that we have running back weakness, I don't see that. I mean, I couldn't. The reason why we have 3 number 1s next year is so we can partake of the plethora of running backs that are coming out next year. So I can't agree with that one. The Killers number 2 for S. Jackson. I think that's a pretty good value for right now.
In 2016, by the way.
2016. Okay, I think that's pretty good value. He's going to be a touchdown vulture. The Falcons, unfortunately, lost 4 of their starters on offensive line, so their running game is just in shambles no matter who's starting there. And the last part that I say about Nick and Matt Forte, if Nick can start returning, Nick has a chance right here to move some people for. I'm now intrigued that maybe I might offer an offer to Nick for Matt Forte. If that's the kind of thing that can be transpired, then maybe I might do that. Speaking from a running back position of strength, of course.
Okay, very good.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in real quick.
Whoever.
Sorry, but I'll jump in real quick and just say, look, I mean, great piece, Berto. Really good thinking, and like a lot of those ideas. The Forte trade is inspired, and that if Nick really is alive, he might be somebody worth talking to. He's got his Forte is a perfect target, so I really like that one. Addressing the one with me with Gates, I mean, if Ralph wasn't suffering from vaginal cramping or something of the nature, we might be able to accomplish that first trade online right now. I would probably do that trade right now for Gates.
Okay.
I like the idea of some depth to back up the running backs. I mean, Spiller going out obviously hurts me, and so hey, I like that a lot.
Okay. Good.
Berto, again, great job. You've done this in the past, and in reality, it has actually inspired many trades, at least along the lines of what you've forecasted. And I'd be surprised if we don't see at least a couple of these come to fruition here. I scribbled down as you were running through these that I think the Wheels are probably thinking bigger than Antonio Gates. You came back with Bryce Brown, and I suspect they're probably even thinking bigger than the combination of Gates and Brown. And then you got to Forte, and you can see everybody starting to talk about Forte, and is he really available?
Right.
I think we're going to find out really soon who the top available running backs are. Who, is Nick willing to give up on Forte?
Right.
McCoy, I'd be surprised, but we'll find out real soon. Chief, I'm sure will let us know. And I think if we know Matt Forte is available, if we know LaShawn McCoy is available, yeah, I'd be surprised if the Hams, if the whoever not so much the Beavers. They seem a little more content.
Wide receivers. That's what we're looking for.
But if you think you're a title contender, and if Matt Forte is the only top shelf, top tier running back available, you'd better be the guy who goes and gets him, and not the other guy.
Right.
So that's going to be real interesting to see if he's really available, who else is really available, and who makes a really strong move to get him quick.
Three number ones, right? That hasn't happened in quite a while. I think I got that from Kramer for Amon Green many years ago, and I think maybe there was one other one. To me, that's the type of thing, and maybe it kind of goes against the what Chief was talking about keeping some of the veterans and going for a youth movement. He kind of went against that a little bit, but again, that's the type of player that you got to start looking at. And I think, like I said, I think Forte is another guy, but the question is, he's a dirt devil, and will Nick actually want to shake things up that much? Who knows?
Well, we're gonna find out because I just emailed him, so I have an email in already.
Is that insider trading?
Yes, yeah. Before the league starts getting the market sprung up, I'm jumping on that.
I was on him 2 hours ago.
Okay, Hank, back to you now. Let's start looking ahead to Week 8. We got so you're going to fill in for Chief here. You're going to give us the Week 8 schedule and tee up a game of the week for us to chat about.
Yes, indeed, I will. So we really have got two games that are looking to be relative runaways. The Wheels playing the Devils and seeing if we can put Nick a bit closer to maybe trading Matt Forte.
There you go.
We've got and for whatever reason, the Sponge are ranked as a 32-point favorite over the Boba Fats. And if the Sponge do hold on and win that really puts the Fats in a position where they probably are looking for next year as well. The Hams are favored over the Lizards. The Mongols are favored by 2 touchdowns over the Ampac. And the Senators got that many points and a couple more over the Aliens. So that leaves us with the game of the week, featuring 2 members of the panel, the Pinnacle Acoustics-sponsored Slippery Beavers, and the powered by the Syracuse Orange Jack's Giant Killers going head-to-head this week in a battle of heavyweights. Beavers a 5-point favorite, by the way.
That's a Week 5.
Not if you get Matt Forte before the weekend.
If I can get email back. No, this is going to be fun, and I've really looked forward to this. I mean, in all honesty, I had no thoughts that I'd get the 116 and then beat the K Wheels. So I'm in a position where I'm not really ready for it psychologically. But having said that, to face off against Berto at both of us at 5-2 is this is a smash mouth. Let's see who really has aspirations. Let's find out that right now.
So
Indeed.
I will throw things at the TV. I would throw things at the TV if Demaryius Thomas.
I just spent $7,000 on a new TV. I'm not throwing anything at it.
I make an offer probably every 3 months to Bill for Demaryius Thomas, like clockwork. I have it set in my calendar to send him a trade offer to get Demaryius Thomas back. The worst trade I've ever made We talked about that last week and probably the week before. It sticks in my craw. So it's all about Thursday night. So if Brandon Oliver can, well, it's not all about Thursday night, but Thursday night is a big component of this. If Brandon Oliver can do something, and Demaryius Thomas doesn't go totally ballistic Thursday night, then I like my chances of Romo and Terrence Williams pulling it out on Monday night. I always like to see those Monday night victories. So I think I need to go into Monday night. I need to go in only down by 22 to have a good shot. 24 maybe. And I need Terrence Williams to score.
I'll be very nervous if I'm not up by 30.
Yeah, and you should be. I mean, obviously the Killers. We talked about the tandem earlier, having that going Monday night. That's exciting. But yeah, this is a battle of heavyweights. This will be good to see. I'm in the weird position. I'm cheering for Thornburg.
I'm easy to cheer for.
Exactly.
That's right.
Well, hey, just look, both of you. You have built very strong teams. Look up and down your lineups. You guys you are two of the league's elite right now. I think it's tough to pick a winner. I'm going to call it Beavers by 1.
Oh God.
Simply because I think you've got some good matchups. I'm seeing all of Berto's running backs are on the road, for instance. But yeah, this is going to be a great game that's got some Sunday night action, Monday night action with some star players, Thursday night action to kick us off. Great game. Looking forward to it. Okay, let's.
If Berto loses by 1 on Monday night, he's going to be pissed because that'll either happen when he's asleep or he'll have made the commitment to stay up for it, and he'll be angry.
Yes.
Not asleep. He is not asleep. He wasn't asleep on Monday night last time.
Well, Arian Foster catching that 2-yard touchdown pass on Monday night I couldn't go to sleep. I thought things were in great shape. He had 75 yards in the first quarter, and it came down to a minute and a half left in the game, whatever it was.
The last offensive
couldn't have
play
gotten that far.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll be up Monday night.
All right. There's your game of the week. That's a good one.
Okay, let's answer our TFFL trivia question of the week. Again, what we're looking for here is the the franchise with the highest points per game average in one single season. It was over 80. Bill is saying the Hams. Berto's got the Lizards.
All right, I got to be candid. I wrote 2 down, and one of them was the Lizards, so I will go the other way and say the Dirt Devils.
It is indeed the Lizards. 81.6 per game.
That was the 11-2 year.
1998.
Yeah, 1998. That was a team with God, who the heck did he have on that team?
Terrell Davis and Emmett Smith.
Terrell Davis, Jerry Rice.
Rice.
Oh, yeah. So we teed this question up by talking about the K-Wheels currently averaging 77.1 points per game. That's actually better, Hank, than your league-leading 74.7 that you had in 2013. And if you maintain it at 77.1, you'll end up as the 3rd best season average ever, behind that Lizards team and behind the Devils with 78.2 in 2004.
That's all outstanding, and I could not care less. I want to win the Pack Bowl this year.
Okay, we got a special treat
done for me lately.
Yeah.
Special treat to wrap us up this week. We would get a nice rant from Chief as our commissioner. We're missing out on that, so instead, I've asked Bill, the self-proclaimed college football scout for the league, the guy who probably watches more college football than anybody else. For those of us,
anybody else, not even TFFL, anybody.
right, exactly, in the world. For those of us who might be looking ahead to 2015 and some of those top draft picks available, who are they going to be, Bill?
Well, the way I see it, there are at least 8 prime candidates for top, shall we say, 16 picks in next year's draft. These are guys who are draft-eligible players who I think this is going to be a stellar class. And it's, if you look at it from the top, Todd Gurley, I think he's right now the consensus #1 pick. This is a power back who also catches the ball in the backfield, played in the SEC. Yeah, he sold his license, signed his name to some people, and now he's not playing. But great, so he has less carries. That's the way I see it. Melvin Gordon out of Wisconsin. This is not your typical William Clay pound the ball up the middle running back. This guy Melvin Gordon is special. He's 6'1", about 217, 220. Runs like a deer, picks his spots. Really a good quality prospect. Two wide receivers. Devin Funchess out of Michigan, big tall guy, 6'5", about 225, maybe 230. Runs just out muscles a lot of people. He's almost a tight end. He actually came in as a tight end, lowered some weight to play wide receiver. He's oozing talent. Mari Cooper at Alabama, another wide receiver, big-time guy, big-time prospect. He was like a 5-star. He went to Alabama. He's basically been doing everything asked for, in which right now is not an offense that showcases him, but he's still good. Now, those are 4 guys you probably know of. I want to give you another list of 4 other guys who maybe not have been on your radar yet. Mike out of South Carolina is a bowling ball type running back, the kind of guy who can make the one cut and carry guys down the field. And I think you're going to have 2 running backs in the future in the NFL. One's going to be the guy who piles it up the middle, and then the other is going to be I think the scat back is going to just go away. The little Jacquizz Rodgers types, the tiny little guys. You're going to have another guy who's a taller guy who can also pass block and catch passes out of the backfield. Mike Davis is the power guy up the middle. The guy who's going to be catching passes and blocking on third downs is T.J. Yeldon, who in Alabama was a couple years ago going to be the shining star, all this stuff. He's just been mixed in with other great backs. They've got another guy at Alabama who's good as T.J. Yeldon, but he's not going to be available until 2016. Another guy on my radar, and this is the kind of wild card, is Jay Ajayi, and I keep getting this wrong, Ajayi out of Boise State. I thought he was a Boise State kind of running back, 5'10", 205, and caught the back. The guy is big. He's 6'1", he's like 210, catches the ball in the backfield, runs hard up the middle. He's as good as any one of the guys that I've seen. He's just not getting a lot of stuff because he plays on blue turf at Boise. So I literally think there are 8 guys who are quality guys who could go in the first round of the TFFL draft next year. Then don't forget Duke Johnson, the running back out of Miami, who's more of a prototypical third back. But we're seeing yardage out of, especially on the Beavers, out of Andre Ellington and Lamar Miller. Not great big backs. So I just think that we're going to see a transition in the running backs right now. It's going to be you have 4 years with a guy. He's going to be great. Then he's going to break down. We'll go get another guy. But a lot of these guys are going to be quality backs next year.
Yeah, I got to say, from what I've seen of T.J. Yeldon, I'm not super impressed. Looks a little pedestrian, but so I think the 2 elite guys from what I have seen so far are Gordon and Gurley, and we'll see.
That was great insight, Bill.
Maybe
this. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just saying that was great insight, Bill. I enjoyed the college football update. I watched very little of it, to be candid. I see the highlights, and obviously Gurley gets a lot of the press. Hey, eight running backs already on the top of mind. That's more than normal.
Yeah, I was going to echo that same thing. College football is pretty much out of my wheelhouse because I like to watch the games on Sunday, and that's just not going to fly. I'm out pumpkin picking or apple picking or other stuff on Saturday.
The thing is, we still have to find at least 2 of them to start for every team, and a good team has 3. So
But the other thing I was going to say, too, is maybe that's why you're not going to trade these 3 first-round picks. You're so in love with all these guys that you just reviewed here, so you're going to stand pat.
Perhaps. We'll see. But the Beavers don't need running backs this year. Beavers need wide receivers. So, maybe we'll trade our picks for wide receivers. Who knows?
I don't know if the rest of you guys picked up on this, but earlier in the webcast, Bill, you mentioned to me that you were thinking of the 2015 draft, 18 months ago.
Absolutely. And it started with T.J. Yeldon, and then now there have been other guys who moved in there. But yeah, I mean, I noticed that this year's draft was low, and I think we can all admit that this year's draft was low on running back talent. But I think next year is going to be high. So and that fed into the fact that yes, we in giving up of Jordy Nelson, but at the time also we had 4 running backs that we thought that we wanted to give a chance. So it was a 2-year process.
I think we're starting to see one of the Beavers' big advantages.
Earlier than we had expected, yes.
I'm giving Shively all the credit.
You backed me off a couple trades, so.
All right. Well, Bill, thank you very much for that. Let's plan on having you back later in the year and maybe doing that again.
You bet.
All right. One quick reminder. It shouldn't be a reminder anymore. We have a Thursday night game. Chargers and the Broncos. Make sure you get those guys in your lineup if you want them in there.
Hey, Berto, Demaryius Thomas is starting.
And good luck to all teams in Week 8 action. I think we'll start to see a little more clarity. The aliens have got to start beating teams like the Senators, the AMPAC. If those teams lose a couple straight, whether it's me, whether it's Ralph or Kramer, we're gonna see more teams dropping out of it. We're gonna start seeing some of these trades happen. That Berto was talking about. Lots to talk about in future weeks. I will see you guys next Wednesday to talk about Week 9. Take care.
Sounds good.
Good night.
Good night.